Hey guys, here's a slideshow that I created with just lots of different cool headlines that you might want to use for your feature stories. So again, your assignment, one of your assignments is to create a style guide for a publication. And your other assignment that you're thinking about and starting to work through is actually creating a full-sized broadsheet feature page with three different stories, including one of which that would be actually sort of the dominant or featured story on that package. So this slideshow is just going to give you some different, really just different examples of ideas that I found that are kind of cool ways that you can create headlines. So you see this often. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but this is actually just placing a photo into text. And so you see those wines on the left-hand side and how there's different wine bottles that find each of those. You may or may not like some of these things. Actually, I like the wine and spirits logo better than I like what they did with the text treatment. And then the one on the right-hand side, you can see how that photo almost just kind of leaks into the text that's below it. So it looks like you have the exact same photo, only part of it becomes text. Pretty easy to do in InDesign. Certainly something that I could show you if you had questions on or weren't sure how to do it. Here's another example of the same thing. Lots of cool white space. Interesting. This looks like the front page to sort of an insert magazine. And some interesting composition here in terms of how this works. You often don't, you suggest sometimes to your students, don't have your subject look away from the page. But I think with this text here, it really works. And certainly the headline, pretty simple design, but looks kind of cool. There's another example of that from Go magazine where they just took the texture from Scarlett Johansson's dress and then reused it up in the logo up the top. Lots of cool, nice color patterns being established here with that red, and just a nice look. And again, pretty easy to do. If you just create outlines with text and then use your paste into function, you can plop any photo into letters. Nice design here. Good use of creating contrast with this slab serif font that they've used, where the two words of the headline buzz and off are put into separate text boxes, and then kind of positioned with relation to each other. Contrast is a great way to create viewer interest in your page. And so just making the word buzz significantly bigger than the other word, I think, really works well. If you've got time and a budget, you certainly can do things like this, where you're actually like hand creating a design and then taking a photo of that and using that as your design. So the one on the left-hand side is I like that verbal visual connection, right? We've got fresh voices, and then it's made of all these mints that you see, all these different styles of mints. So might not take a huge budget, but certainly probably took someone some time to put this together. And then that other example of handmade, where they're actually creating the headline using all these kind of DIY different things that you're seeing and probably would see again when you open the magazine to create that headline. I like too the contrast between using that and then the In America, which is just a kind of a more straightforward font. So utilizing something that's wacky or goofy or crazy and pairing it with something that is really normal heightens the effect. I talk to my students about this a lot. They often want to pair something crazy with something else crazy, and that almost never works. So I tell them, create that contrast by pairing your weird one with something that isn't weird at all, and it really makes that effect a little better. Cool magazine layout, I think here we're actually using the text to the one letter as a graphic device and not just the headline, but really once you take that K in the name and you boost it up to 900 point size or whatever this is, it almost takes on an artistic uh, frame of mind instead of just being the letter. And obviously also really the loops on that K really serve to nicely frame the start of this story as well. So lots of really cool things going on. You can see by that little logo in the upper right hand corner that most of these I just did a search on Pinterest and connected some of these to my Pinterest page and then just took screenshots of them. So that's generally where these come from, and you can find lots more good examples there. Nice sort of found text technique with that wing that I remember from reading Angels in America back when I was an undergrad at MSU. It was part of the cover of the novel or the play, I guess, and then serves as the what they're using for their playbill for that at this particular theater. Nice look to it. Here's another one, not necessarily from a newspaper or magazine. Looks a little more like a poster, but again, that idea of working that text together so that it forms a sort of a modular clump instead of being placed all over the place. There's probably even lots more going on here that I don't even necessarily recognize right off the bat, but it's a really nice look in terms of how all those letters are forming together. And again, you need to put those in separate text boxes, right? And then manipulate them with regard to each other in order to get them exactly where you want them. I like this example of using cutouts and then putting those into the frame of the story. A story about looks like Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds probably not getting into the Hall of Fame, and so you have that really large text, giant sized, with a nice color pattern, but also you have the cutouts worked into it, so it isn't all text. You've also got some graphics that go with that. Pretty powerful design here, in terms of the content that you have, and almost that sort of 3D look of being torn, but that verbal visual connection in terms of what the story is all actually about and what you're going for in the look. Lots of negative space around the outside of this as well, so it doesn't, the other pieces of it don't become too overwhelming, and I think they probably knew that they had a really strong look for this, and so didn't want to clutter it up in other places. You can see how there's a complementary story down at the bottom as well. So again, that's the kind of thing that you're looking for in your feature assignment, is to not just design the main package, but also some of those that go around it. Tilted text doesn't always work, but I think it works really well here. Obviously, there's a visual reason why it's being used. I also like the fact that they tilted the story and not just the text, because then those work together as a package. And I've noticed, just taught in InDesign yearbook class a couple weeks ago, and I noticed that when students they want to tilt things and they're not really sure why. I think it's just because they can, but they tilt them and then they use them connected to things that aren't tilted, and they just don't work. And I think the fact here that not only the picture but the headline and the story all form that package that is on that tilt, I think really works well together. Nice use again of copy as a headline, or copy as a graphic, right? You've got the headline here, but it also serves as a visual for the story, and that nice reverse, or that nice pull-out color on the red that they're using, I think works really well. Kind of a wacky one. It's got sort of I don't know, like almost a psychedelic feel to it with that crazy font. It looks like this came from 1968. And is about LSD bands or something, but it's about broccoli, and so you've got that really powerful, cool graphic that someone created, but then that warped text that goes along with it, I think works really well. Nice headline package, straightforward on the headline, so the picture is really what makes this work here. But San Francisco Chronicle is known for doing, pushing the envelope a little bit and doing some different things. You might remember their 9/11 front page, the September 12th front page with the large, giant type of bastards on the front with the exclamation point. And so you see they're willing to do some things with type to really kind of push it. This is a yearbook spread, and so I wanted to include that because I know some of you are doing yearbook, or at some point will be doing yearbook. It's how I initially got my job, was I agreed to do yearbook, and no one else was really interested in doing it. So Definitely want to take a look at where you can gain some magazine knowledge and increase it incorporate it into your yearbook as well. I like the that photo. I think works well with this, and then just that sort of like you know dripping text and has kind of a heavy metal look to it, and I think works really well for this spread. Love the color on this. We're focused on headlines, so we look at that fashion headline at the top, which serves as sort of the necklace on the cutout silhouette picture that's happening, and lots of other really cool things going on here as well. But just love that look. This is one I've used several times before with my sports class. I incorporate that into some graphic design that I'm doing with them. But using the picture, right? It's part of the photo and actually kind of incorporating that into the text itself. And we've talked before about not overutilizing reverse text. So having just a brief portion of the story and the deck in the reverse text doesn't become overwhelming. Another really good example of a feature story here, because you've got those other packages at the bottom. It looks like one might be an ad, I'm not sure, but certainly another story at the bottom. So another good example of what you're going to be doing for the assignment. Studied this for a while, trying to figure out exactly what's happening with this. I do love the visual on it. I think it's really cool. And again, if you can create that 3D thing, I think that works well. I'm not sure if this was computer generated. Some of you might know better than I do. If this is computer generated or someone literally, tore those little strips of paper and curled them up like that. But I think it works really well. That again, using the text to sort of fit together into a particular mod, I think works really well here. Nice verbal visual connection again. Again, as the intro package to something that is gonna be a story that follows on the next couple of pages. Our magazine has started doing this with our center spread, our center kind of our in-depth package story where we've got a 48-page magazine, and we've got some opportunities to do some things where we're not necessarily packing every single spread all full of stuff. And so to be able to introduce a longer package with a spread intro, I think is a really, really nice thing to be able to do to kind of break up your magazine and also do some really powerful visuals as well. So this Powers of Attraction headline, I think works great with this. This was okay. The text, I think, certainly in terms of the color, connecting to what's happening in the layout, I think works really well, and the use of lines. Nice use of white space as well. This is a cool look. You're seeing a lot more designs, I think, that look like this. And this is the business section of a newspaper, which I hear that, and it's like the section when, as a teenager, I was reading a newspaper. It was the one that I would basically throw directly in the garbage and read the other sections. This is not what I would be typically interested in. But what a cool design for this. So lots of different, great use of color here. That giant visual graphic that kind of allows you to follow around the page and kind of see exactly what, go in a particular order in terms of what you should be looking at. Lots of photos and also some artwork incorporated into this. But this is, I think, the kind of thing that in the hands of a not so good designer could be a total disaster. But it seems to work really well here. Lots of white space around the headline. You've got lots of text on the page. It's not like it's lacking for a story. So they definitely feel like they can use some of that space to do something a little more fun. So this, the art of sitting comfortably, certainly I'm assuming was done in InDesign using the text on a path tool, which is pretty easy to do. So this would be a fun one to put together. Again, using the text as a visual, that big number 2, which actually works into the oil rig. I'm not sure what those are called, but the fracking rig that's there, and you can see how that 2 really just wraps right around it, right? So the photo and the text actually work together as one object. Pioneer Press, pretty powerful story. Looks like the front page story on derogatory terms or slut shaming. that they're doing, and that text package that works together. And I think really, really impressive look. And again, the type of thing that works well because you've got the additional white space around it. Certainly a very vertical design, and they're probably not doing something quite so vertical for every front page, but important stories or special occasions, I think that this is an important thing to be able to do, is to redesign, your front page so that you're utilizing the space in a way that's different from what people are expecting. From the state news, the MSU newspaper, like that pills popped with the color pattern, that orange color on that blue pill, which I think is supposed to sort of look like a balloon with the hands holding it and the ribbon at the bottom. Lots of different artistic visuals happening here, and I think it creates a package that works pretty well. It's not afraid to use white space and not afraid to use student artwork, or artistic things that your staff members might be using. Gives this a nice look. Got a few more here. A little more straightforward, but utilizing the text over the picture. I really like that deck in the bar, that black bar that runs across the middle. The text at the bottom is a little goofy in terms of kind of fitting into that white space, but setting up the pictures so that you're going to use them with the headline, I think can be an effective thing to do. About fish sandwiches, and you've got the text over the lettuce and tomatoes at the top and not quite over the fish, so you really are seeing them try to work these things together in a logical way. Nice story package here, and a couple different things. That going green, and this might be, I don't think it's too much, but it's borderline in terms of like working too many different graphic elements together in one. So the going green, I think, is pretty impressive, but then the text on the curve, I think, adds kind of a different effect to it. Again, using that a graphic, or using a graphic to sort of tie things in together with the deck in that ribbon, and then the actual headline going over the top of it. Two different font sizes, two different font choices, at least from the same family, but different fonts. And then kind of really tucking those tightly together instead of having a heavy leading there, I think works really well. That sort of warped text, I think, doesn't always work, but works here, especially with that background and lots of different cool things going on. This is, I believe, the Lansing State Journal. And just a nice look with the singer's head kind of going over the top of the headline as well, and working those two pieces together. And then this is the last one. This is the one you saw at the intro as well. Really, really like, I think this is the Cleveland Plain Dealer, which always does some fun stuff with the Cleveland Browns coverage that they have, and they're always doing something a little goofy, a little wacky. I think it helps, actually, that the Browns are terrible, and kind of like the Lions have been consistently terrible, because it gives them some opportunities to do some fun things with a team that just frustrates everyone. So love that finger. Obviously it serves as a fun visual, but also points directly at the story that they want you to look at first, so the reader understands how to work their way around the page, and really works well. Okay, so hopefully you've seen some really good examples. Again, go to Pinterest and just do a search for cool creative headlines, and you'll find some other ones that I think you'll work as well. But when you go to create your feature page packages, hopefully you've got some inspiration here that you can use. Good luck with those.